That's not the way we do it, really. But, okay. Do you want to do that again?
This ain't good, is it? It is this, isn't it?
No, he does it there. No, he does it right at the camera.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, and he does it there.
Come on, we're training you, so come on.
No, because you're going to be on camera, aren't you?
Is that not exactly what you just did?
Right, once again, we are down at the Olympia Health and Fitness. And this is episode 7, I think, of Brutally Honest. The podcast that's mashing up the dance. Well, a lot of people have been asking for this young man, Mr. Ian Chambers. He's a top amateur bodybuilder and a professional coach and an IFBB professional judge. That's the guy straight across from me, and I'm going to let him introduce himself first. So, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm far from young.
You're far from young. Okay. Right. So, right. We'll come back to you, Ian. So, and then to the left of me, we have a young man who's, who trains down at the Olympia gym. And he wants to, he's hopefully he's going to be doing his first show this year. And he's going to be doing our show, which is on the 16th of August. And this is it's a really special event what we're doing this year. We're going to be hosting a sports weekend in Sheffield, where we're going to have it on the 16th of August. We're going to be having a bodybuilding show, which is hopefully this young man will be entering. And then on the Sunday, we're going to be having another event, which is like a sports festival, where we're going to have, a strongman event. We're having a boxing exhibition, and loads of different activities will be going on that weekend. And it's in memory of a young man who obviously, sadly lost his life at school. He sadly passed away when he was killed. He was stabbed because of this obviously knife crime, what's going on at the moment. I watched something on TikTok recently, and they said we cured COVID. When COVID was out, the pandemic of COVID, but we're struggling to cure knife crime in the UK. And this thing's going on, and it's terrible. So the poor family, Caroline and Mark, the parents, we're working with these, the parents. And as I said, it's going to be in memory of Harvey, the 14, 15-year-old boy that sadly lost his life. But Daniel, do you want to introduce yourself? Who are you? Who's Daniel?
All right, so I'm Daniel. I'm 20 years old. I've been training for about 4 or 5 years now. I've been training at the Olympia Health and Fitness for about coming up to 2 years now.
Yes.
And I'm just hoping to get my feet wet in bodybuilding, so that's why I've entered the show that Trev's putting on. Okay, perfect. So, but the main man in the hot seat, Ian Chambers. So I met Ian. We're gonna have to go back. We have to go down memory lane. So 1997, I remember. Even though we're both looking very young and healthy, and
Speak for yourself.
So 97. I always tell the guys in the gym, I always tell them a little bit about me, because, these days I don't know if they think I'm too old now, and they don't really need to listen to this older guy. They've all got the new ways of training, the new diet methods, cocoa pops, low reps. They've got all kinds of things going on. But, before we go into that, so 1997, what show did I meet you at? What show was it?
Mr. Doncaster, I think it was.
Yeah, Central Britain.
Yes.
Central Britain. It was a qualifier for the British Championships. NABA British Championships. Yes. So I walked on stage, and that was my first year of competing as a heavyweight. I've done a few novice shows, right? And who did I bump into? Mr. Chambers himself on stage. I never saw him backstage. I just saw him on stage, and he's. What did you say? Remember what you said to me?
Well, basically, the show came round, I was in the short class. This is how it actually happened to me, being on stage with Trevor as a super heavyweight. Or at the time, height. Trevor was a tall
guy. Yeah.
There was only one competitor in the short class, and I said to whoever was running the show, "Is there any chance of just shoving me in with the class with the biggest people in?" Which ended up to be Trevor's class. And then obviously I walked on stage about 75 kilos up against people like Trevor at 120 kilo plus. And then when he walked off stage, we had a conversation, and I turned around and asked him basically what he was doing, what he was taking, and he just said nothing basically. And I went, "Are you taking the fucking piss?" And then obviously you can tell when somebody's not. You can tell when somebody's telling the truth and somebody's bullshitting you. So basically, me and Trevor swapped conversations, and I actually said to Trevor, I said, "I'm not being funny. If you look like that with what you're doing now, do things right, and you're heading to the Olympia stage."
And these are the stories which I tell, some of the young people that to come down to the gym, and as I go through my life, I look back and I speak about my experiences, and sometimes they look at me like, "Really? Like, are you really lying? Are you exaggerating a little bit?"
There's been a lot of stories, man.
There's a lot of stories, and a lot of people. I've lived a full life, and the man himself is here.
There's a lot of stories we can't tell as well.
And there's a lot of stories you can't tell. There's a lot of stories you can't tell. So, the man's here, and obviously from 97, and I'll tell you how old that, because that, in fact, let me rewind a little bit. So 97, went to the Central Britain, my first year competing. Sean Davis was in the audience, and I didn't realise that was anything special, really, because it's only these guys giving me confidence. A bit like what he's done to you today. He's obviously had a look at him.
DVD,
You still got the DVD. I'd love to see that.
Graham Madison was in it as well, wasn't he?
Graham Madison. All these are all top guys. All been to Universe, Worlds, and top guys. They're all really good bodybuilders. And luckily, I won that show. But I think I went to the Northeast the following week, because as I said, we used to do 15 shows a year. It wasn't like now you do one show. So I went to that show, the Britain, the following year, and I won that as well. I won the overall. Then I went on to the Britain, and that's when I really started working with Ian, and I think he prepped me for the Britain. And I remember, it was the diet was so hard. I used to have to ring him every night. Ian, can I eat some food? And can I do this? Can I do that?
No.
He was ruthless on me, and I thought, and he can embarrass me now. Yeah, some days I used to cheat on the diet. I used to just, Ian, I said, "What's up?" I said, "I went and got some cornflakes or chocolate bar in the middle of the night." I remember one day I cheated, and he said, "Right, you're going to be on grilled tomatoes for 3 days."
Grilled tomatoes and chicken,
zero carbs to get back on track and do more cardio. So I thought, oh my God, this is even worse. I'm not going to cheat. But I admit, I'm a terrible. I didn't like dieting. It was horrible. The way we used to diet,
yeah.
But we didn't have Cocoa Pops. We didn't have all these, what they do now. We just had, his diets are brutal. But they worked. And I remember going on stage with lines on my glutes, and I didn't even know what that was. And I thought, everybody looking at me and saying, "What the hell? This guy got me that." My body fat was down to virtually zero. How he dieted me down and took how much cardio. So he was way above his time in coaching, and that's why I always kind of refer to him and put his name forward to most people. Many guys over the years, they've come to me and asked me to prep them. I said, no, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing it a long time, over 30 years. But I said, there's a guy what I'd put anybody with who works along the same methods as me, but I think he knows a little bit more. I always say that. And that's why I always send them to him. So for you guys out there, Ian Chambers is going to take all the competitors in this gym leading up to the Olympia, Yorkshire Classic, TT Yorkshire Classic. He's going to prep them, and he's doing because I've asked him to do that because I'm on a different journey at the moment. I'm also putting on a fitness retreat onto Spain, so I'm going to be really busy doing that. So he's still into his prepping people. So I'm just giving, there's not many people I trust like this guy. But anyway, it's not about me. It's more about you guys today. I just thought I'd just obviously let you know a little bit more about the two guests. But yeah, so it's Ian. Moving forward, so you always said that you didn't have the best genetics, right? So I remember seeing you in all these big shows, like Britain, and it's not like it were these days when you had like 40, 50 people lining up on stage. I've seen him come out ripped to the bone, blowing guys away. How did you overcome that?
I think, well, to go as far as the British and the NAB of Britain and shows like that, if you made the top 6, you thought you'd actually won the Olympia.
Yeah.
Because the standard was that good. You'd 16, 17 in a class in today's standards, not being disrespectful to a lot of today's standards, would be IFBB pros. Because unfortunately, back in the day, there was only one pro card given to the man and the woman. Now it's watered down. The federations are watered down. There's that many federations, which is good because people can compete every weekend if they want to. But like you said, they don't want to compete every weekend because apparently the coaches said they can't peak every weekend, which is a lot of wank. Because if you're competing all the time, you'll learn your body. A coach will tell you so much, and a coach is somebody who works with somebody with an opinion. It isn't just this. You tell him what you think, and then you work together to do with each other. Because obviously everybody's got different mindsets, different jobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely I agree with that. So, and I always say that as well to my clients. I always say that, I don't really know your body. When I first start working with them, I always say, we're going to try and see how it goes. And then obviously it could go left, right, up, down, and then we work to see where they're going.
There's got to be a starting point.
There's got to be and that's what it is, a starting point.
No, a starting point could be 500 grams of carbs. By the end of the day, it could be 200 grams of carbs. It could be 200 grams to start with, and 800 grams at the end because the metabolism is racing. So you've got to feed the metabolism.
Okay, and
people's bodies are completely different. Completely different.
100%.
People's ethnic backgrounds are completely different. I've worked with you. I've worked with Asians. I've worked with Masoon Butt Pakistans. Kashmirs, English, they react different to different food, different cardio and everything. It isn't, you open a drawer and you give somebody a diet, there's your diet.
Like some of the new coaches are doing these days.
Well, I've actually worked out the new theory of the new online coaching. Bullshit fucking sells. If you talk bullshit and glamorise things, people don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear things what they want to hear. You know what I mean? A calorie isn't just a calorie. Why would you want to have a bowl of Cocoa Pops when you could have something what's very slow releasing carbohydrate with no shit what's in the Cocoa Pops? Fair enough, there is a lot of pros out there having Cocoa Pops, but they're not telling you that on 12 I use a growth hormone a day, T3, clenbuterol, and everything else that burns fat. Yeah. But if you're an average man on the street, you can't reinvent the wheel. Bodybuilding, what certain people were doing for foods back in the days is always carried on through Haney, through Dorian, through Samir Benu, through Phil Heath, through Cutler, up till present day Mr. Olympia. You just have to look at Derek Lunsford. Whatever went on between him and Haney last year's Olympia, he's jumped back with Chris Aceto, which in my eyes is one of the best bodybuilding coaches on the planet, and turned him round in a matter of, 3 months?
Yeah. And
if Derek brings what he brings again, unless Samson brings it even better, because if Samson brings a better condition than any of them, it's game over.
Yeah.
Because Samson's far too superior than any of them all.
With the structure. We
just needs. But Samson's only learning the game. Samson's only been in the game 6-7 years.
Yeah.
Back in the day when we competed at 16-year-olds, by the time you got to 23, you were a seasoned bodybuilder. So Samson's still on that journey, isn't he? To be honest. Which is why I've just said, look at this young kid. He's got a lovely shape. He's got a few lagging body parts, but not everybody's perfect.
No.
Especially at that, he's only 20-year-old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've actually said to him, your legs will look better the more water you lose off them, so there won't be what you think is your weak body parts. Because once you, an off-season, a body part like legs full of water is bigger in the off-season with the tape measure around it. Draw the water off when you see all the tie-ins and the things, it actually illusion looks better, which is what bodybuilding is. Bodybuilding's an illusion. You can put somebody with perfect bone structure who's small beside somebody, a Marcus Rule against a Lee Labrada, and Lee Labrada standing on his own will look far superior.
And I remember that one of the first Olympia shows we did, the first show we run was in Rotherham a few years ago, and you brought a guy down there. He was a Pakistani boy, don't remember his name, and I remember him sat in the audience, nice and quiet, never said a word to nobody. I didn't even notice him, and there had some big monsters walking around. Anyway, do you remember your athlete won the overall?
The Indian guy was.
Kanan.
Kanan.
If you would have seen this boy, if you'd have seen this boy sat in the foyer, nobody looked at him. They didn't even know he was competing. And I remember sat with the organizer of the owners of the venue, and they said to me, "Is that little boy that was sat on the stage? You would have thought he looked like that."
He was covered up, wasn't he?
He was covered up.
He just looked like a little Indian waiter.
You didn't even. That's what he looked like, a little waiter. But when he took his top off and his bottom, and what he blew away, he won the overall. He's not even. He beat guys at 15, 16, 17 stone.
59 kilo. He was.
He blew them away, and that's what I tried to explain. But as I said, a lot of guys now, as I say, we're old school. We don't know what we're talking about. We've only got 30 years experience. No, what do we really know? And you coached that man, and he won the overall. So it's not the biggest, it's the best.
Bodybuilding's an illusion.
It's an illusion.
It's an illusion.
Guys always play that chasing the size game, but size doesn't always win, does it?
Would you say it plays a part though?
Of course you need muscle. It's bodybuilding.
Structure plays a part. You know, Samson takes up a lot of stage.
Yeah.
Dorian in his prime was 252. Now you're getting 212s at 252. 3 weeks before they depleted to 212. But Dorian, tie-ins, everything was there, weren't there? You know what I mean?
Quality muscle. Leaney.
235 pounds, 8 times Mr. Olympia.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's just something what obviously we touched on, and then I know we mentioned calories a few minutes ago. We sometimes have a little bit. I like to have a bit of fun with them in the gym, though, because they believe they know more than you. Forget about me. They believe they know more than anybody what's already done this thing. And
I don't think it's their fault, man. I think it's the fucking idiots that's drumming shit into their heads.
I know it is, but what it is, and we're not here to beat anyone up today, because this is not old school or versus new school. Because as I said, he's going for the show, and we're all supporting him, and hopefully he's going to go up there and blow it. All the guys in the gym, we're going to support everyone, and there's a handful of them, and obviously this guy, he wants to pursue a career in personal training, and good luck to him, and hopefully he goes really far with it. So we're not here to tear him down.
Yeah.
But as I said, what it is that we already know what works. As you said, you can't reinvent the wheel. So I just heard you earlier on when you was talking about grams of protein, grams of carbs.
Yeah.
Why did you phrase it in that way? Do you think it'd be easier to just count calories, or because I remember when we. Sorry, before you're going to jump in, but I remember when you gave me a diet, for an example, it was so many grams of protein, carbs, and fats. I didn't even count calories.
I don't think you need to.
No, just explain that.
There's 4 nutrients of life. There's protein, fats, carbohydrates, and water. You don't need to You don't need to break it down fancy to be. Well, I'm on this macros. The best thing anybody can do is Google how much protein is in certain foods, print it out, put it on your fridge. How much carbohydrate is in 100 grams of so-and-so food, print it out.
That's what I used to do. I had a book.
How many grams of fat? Now, because fat now is very essential. back when we competed, it was 0 fats and basically 0 carbs until you carved up, and you'd rather eat it or you missed it. And then if somebody who's looking after you says, listen, 230 grams of protein a day, 300 grams of carbohydrates a day, 70 grams of fat. There's your sheet with all your proteins, fats and carbs on. Just pick them off and divide them into 5 meals.
So why do you think people are counting calories?
They're complicating things, overcomplicating things. It's like steps. I'm getting 10,000 steps in a day. That's fucking life. I worked in acid tanks for 15 years, shot blasting, digging acid out. I didn't count my calories because I'm probably burning millions. It's just that you've still got to do cardio to burn body fat if you're that way for carrying body fat. Some people don't carry body fat, some people do. The ones who carry body fat find it harder to put muscle tissue on because they've got to have it coming out of their ears.
So you hear that? You want to touch on why some of you guys count calories instead now?
Yeah, so I just want to ask, do you believe you need to be in a calorie deficit to lose fat?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's why we're counting calories, because your body will burn a certain amount in a day, right?
Yeah.
So
You don't need to, that's, I'll take you an example. You've just told me you're on XX amounts of protein a day.
yeah,
And I use 7 times Mr. Olympia Flex Lewis, who's not being disrespectful, carrying more muscle than all us 3 put together now. Or back in his day he was. And Flex was coming in at like 180, 210 grams of protein a day.
yeah.
So what gives somebody the right, who's a novice bodybuilder or a junior bodybuilder, to eat another 70 grams more protein than him? Do you know what I mean? Too much protein converts into carbohydrates through the trip cycle.
Yeah, of course.
But as far as you don't need to say, well, obviously there's 4 grams of protein and 4 calories in 1 gram of protein, 1 gram of carbs.
Yeah.
So you times that. And fats is 9 grams per gram.
So you're saying that you count your macros, but each macro has a certain amount of calories.
So
in a way, you guys are counting calories.
Well, probably if you sit down and calculated the calories, yeah, but why do you need to put that into your brain anyhow when you're thinking you only need 200 grams of protein a day, 300 grams of carbs and 60 grams of fats? By adding the calories in, it's just something more stressful on the mind what you need to do, as opposed to what bodybuilding is keeping the cortisol levels at bay, which means stress, because stress cannibalizes muscle tissue. So if you only know you need to eat 200 grams, 300 grams and 60 grams, why do you need to be sitting there at the end of the day doing this? Because it's obviously going to work out to some kind of calorie at the end.
Yeah.
But if you're doing 45 minutes cardio on fasted, we call it get out of bed, have a fucking coffee, get on the fucking bike. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to become a fancy word, fasted.
I mean, it is what it is, though. It is
Yeah,
fasted
it is,
cardio.
yeah.
What's wrong with calling it fasted cardio?
Well, whatever. You've got quite what you want, as long as it gives you the results.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, of course, yeah.
But as far as obviously counting calories, I think it's just another stress on your brain you don't need. If you know yourself, you like I've just said to you, drop your protein to 210. Carbohydrates are still pretty high anyhow.
Yeah.
And rather than basically take more calories out, just add another 10, 15 minutes cardio in. And when that slows down, put another 20 minutes in between your last 2 meals.
So you're burning more calories.
So you're burning more calories anyhow.
To get in a calorie deficit.
Yeah, without overcomplicating things. Well, I've got to be on 200. Obviously, them added up is going to be a certain amount of calories, say 2,300.
Yeah.
But you don't need to be, well, I've only made these. If you miss it on one day, it doesn't matter. But I see them in mind that, I'm down on my calories. Well, sometimes you can go 2 or 3 hours without eating food. It doesn't have to be the end of the world. And don't get us wrong, I've been there myself. And it adds more stress to the human body. You know,
Okay.
let the body go with the flow, you know what I mean?
You think it can be a useful tool, though?
What, counting calories?
Because you can know your maintenance calories.
Yeah, but you can have, well, yeah, let's say your maintenance calories is 2,300.
Yeah.
And you're getting 60 grams of carbohydrates, fats a day, so times 2 the maths, I don't know, I didn't get the skill. Whatever. But then you're getting more calories from your protein. You know what I mean? Protein keeps muscle tissue when you're dieting.
Yeah.
So if you're getting, let's say you're only on, let's say for example, 50 grams of fats, but you're on 600 grams of carbs and you're only on 100 grams of protein. Fair enough, your calories are going to be the same at the end of the day, but
But I think it's a given that you keep the protein high. Like, no one's going on a diet and then reducing their protein first. They always go to carbs first.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, but like I say, I'm
Not necessarily. You say that, but
Carbs and fat, unless they're on a crazy amount of protein. I know you have people on like 500 grams of protein a day.
Yeah. So okay. So I'm going to bring it back a little bit. So at the end of the day, there is calories at the end of it.
absolutely.
But I totally, until you have got your body fat down to like really, really low, 3, 5, 3, 2, really, really low, until you've actually done that, you don't really want to be sat there doing anything. You remember me telling you what I used to be, what it's like when you're really, really down? I used to sit there, and he knows. I used to sit there at home because I'm on that much water. And I used to sit there and I'm dying to go to the toilet. My toilet used to be upstairs. Luckily now I've got one downstairs. But them days I was poor. And I sat in my house. I want to go to the toilet. I'm still drinking my water. I want to go. 1 hour later, I'm going to go. I wait till the last minute to run upstairs. I didn't have the energy to get upstairs. You understand? You know that.
Yeah.
So why the hell do I want to be making my brain and stressing myself out to count calories when I already know I need protein, carbs and fats? I don't want no stress. I can't even think straight. But these days, I think the reason why they're doing this, like as Ian said as well, I'm just letting you know, as I said, I'm not here to bash anyone. I just think that a lot of the new coaches are saying you have to do this is to make money. It's to blind people with science.
Bullshit sells.
That's it. That's all it is. Because it's not necessary, especially if you're prepping. These have only just started doing a prep.
Kids like him are easily read. They're very easily led, see, because they don't know the difference.
They don't know the difference yet. And I know that he's not daft. And in time to come, I know he's training and what have you, will change.
He's doing something right, because I've just looked at him and he's got a lovely physique.
No, but yeah, definitely. And I will support them and push them all the way. And as I said, we're not. There's 1 or 2 ones who have gone. But unfortunately they're not in this position today. Hopefully, this guy after this will get loads of clients and he's going to pursue his career. And I'm right behind him for winning all the shows. I even said to him, before you came, he'll tell you what I've said to him. I reckon you probably could compete before our show.
I've just told him I could get him ready for the show in 4 weeks.
That's what I said something similar, didn't I? I said I will.
I'm not going to say it's going to be easy.
Not at all. He's still got work to do. But what I said to him is that I think we'll take you to some other shows. If I've got the time, I'll take him there. Yeah. If I hadn't, I'll phone up the organisers and say, right, I've got a guy, which I always do, coming down. It doesn't mean they're going to fix anything. I said, just don't overlook him. That's all I'll do. So, say who's going to enter your show. I think you can enter your show.
Well, put it this way, if he drops another 6 pounds of fluid in the next 2 weeks, I've actually judged people in worse shape than what he's in, and they've won trophies.
Yeah, and I said to him, I think you've got a possibility of going to Britain. I said that to you, didn't I? And I said, I'll help you with it. So we're not here to beat them. We're here to help them.
We're all on the same team.
Yeah,
we're all on the same team, and that's what me and Inche, we had a. How many bodybuilding amateur shows did you enter?
What, 220?
So, I mean, he's done a lot more. He's double me. I did over 100 amateur shows.
Yeah.
Now, these look at me. Yeah, right, 100. That's what they think. They don't believe me sometimes. They think I'm talking nonsense. He's double the amount of shows. He's a lunatic. He's the maddest guy I know in bodybuilding. I remember knocking on the door early in the morning in Blackpool, so what's up? Get out of bed. We're going for a walk. This is just before the show. He just can't stay still, this guy. He got me out of bed and then I don't know what you did. I mean, you took me for a walk on Blackpool Pier. I said, well, we're competing soon. Don't matter about that. We're walking, and so that's the kind of guy. But, we're here to help people. And he was helping me. And I appreciate, without these kind of guys, I know I wouldn't have gone to that level.
Yeah.
He obviously saw something in me, like 1 or 2 of us. And Mark Whittaker, must got to mention him as well. I trained with him. They pushed me all that way. But I thought when I was younger, I thought I knew everything, and then obviously I started to listen a little bit more, and that's when I started to really improve.
So you've got to surround yourself with the right people. Too many people have lost smoke up your ass.
And he won't get that with me.
You're looking good. You're looking good.
No, he won't get that. None of them get that with me.
The difference between looking good in a gym and looking good on a bodybuilding stage.
Totally different. Totally different.
If that's the route.
But yeah. So you understand what you understand what we're actually saying. Of course, there's calories. We're not saying calories don't exist.
I think we think the same thing, but we just say it in a different way.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Because it's the same thing.
It's the same
what
thing.
we're saying.
Yeah.
It is the same. It is the same thing. But all it is that, as Ian was put it into perfect perspective, is that when you're prepping, you don't want to have.
It's got to be simple.
It's got to be simple. It's hard. Yeah, I mean, until you really start to get down. After these shows, what you enter, and I wish you win every one.
I'm gonna be dead.
You're not gonna want to count anything. You're not even gonna be able to walk. You understand, when you get that low, it's pain.
It depends how far. He's maybe one of these whose metabolism just fires up anyhow, and he can cruise in without dropping to the calorie deficit. You know what I mean? But you don't know unless you try it.
Yeah.
Once there's always where there's a will, there's a way. Sometimes, if your carbohydrates are that low, you'll walk into the kitchen and you'll think, "What the fuck am I coming here for?" And then, you know what I mean?
Tell them about the car story, the rice cake story.
They already know that.
They already know
about that. So, but yeah, so I'm going to move on a little bit now. So, as I said, we're not really here to beat any young boys. And if there's any coaches out there, good luck to you. Keep your clients. I wish you all the best. So, but moving on to training then. So I know how I used to train, and I know how you used to train. I've seen how these guys used to train, but you want to explain to me when you was in your prime, not towards the end of it, because I know that sat here now in my 50s, things are squeaking a little bit now. And but when we used to talk on the phone when we was 20s, early 20s, what was you doing in the gym? What kind of training do you think is good?
14 to 16 sets of body parts for a big body part. Rep range 8 to 16.
8 to 16, yeah.
You know what I mean?
A lot of sets now.
I don't think there's any such thing as overtraining. I think it's under-eating and under-resting. And with today's modern day life, things are 2,000 miles an hour.
Okay. And why do you think you need to train like that?
I mean, I'm probably like 99% of people who came from my era who probably trained too hard and ended up being like I am now. It's fuck knees, shoulders are knackered. I've got arthritis in my fingers. Take it to you don't need to do drop sets, everything. You need to train hard. I think you need to gorge a muscle full of blood. And between 2 and 6 reps, in my eyes, is powerlifting. You know what I mean? And there's a sweet spot between 6 till 14 to 16 reps. You know what I mean? I think training's an emotion. Training is an emotion. And
so let me just ask you another question before I come to Daniel. So, have you ever tried doing that powerlifting? The low reps. Have you ever tried doing that to see how much muscle you could put on?
Well, I was a 700-pound squatter, anyhow. I used to do powerlifting in the off season and bodybuilding in the competition season.
So you were doing low reps.
And I had 200-pound dumbbells in my gym, which were being used.
I remember.
At 90 kilo.
So when you was training really, really heavy like that, did you not put on as much muscle as you did when you was training the other way?
I don't know, because I'll be honest with you, I was like Lee Priest. I just used to get as fat as fuck off season. I used to eat and eat and eat because I liked just riving at weights.
Yeah.
Whether it builds muscle or something. There's not many people use the HIT movement and actually come out of it the other side without no fucked up joints.
Yeah.
A lot of them are using high volume, high reps.
Okay. Daniel, training methods.
I don't get it right. I'm not saying it doesn't work for certain people, but the majority of it, I think it just destroys the body.
Doing HIT?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, people don't understand what HIT is. It isn't just one set. Even Dorian at his prime built up to them one sets.
Of course.
It
takes a certain...
Dorian was in the gym 40 minutes, so how can people get the perspective that he's done one set of body parts But if you don't want to set your body parts, be in the gym for fucking 9 minutes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stretching and warming up, and you know what I mean?
And then, obviously, in between your sets, how long do you used to rest?
Just enough for the training partner to finish his set.
Just enough. So just enough to catch your breath.
Just if you're on squats, you've got to let your heart rate come back a bit, haven't you?
Yeah, just on legs.
You know, if you've got 6 or 7 plates aside on the squat bar,
Yeah, of course. Obviously, yeah.
you've got to let it come back.
Do you believe in longer rest in between sets?
No, I don't believe in having a fucking tea break in between sets, no.
No.
Would you say 3 minutes is too much?
Personally, I think 3 minutes is too much.
Okay. Would you stick to about 2 minutes? 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Before we jump into that, I want to come to you, and
Yeah.
then you just tell him your theories.
Okay.
So, obviously, you've just heard the man himself, champion bodybuilder, well respected in this whole industry, international professional judge, probably one of Britain's #1 best coaches for
I don't know
prepping,
about
prep coach. He's a madman as well, though. He's a lunatic. He's always. I remember they did a magazine interview and they said, "Who's your best friend in bodybuilding?" I said, "Such and such." He said, "Who's the craziest guy in bodybuilding?" I said, "There's only one guy I know. No one's going to top this one, Ian Chambers." I said, "He's a lunatic." I told your little boy earlier on. I said, "He's you know, your dad's a madman." He said, "Yeah, I know."
I've become one with the world now.
No, you can't. Listen, as you get older, don't you calm down a little bit?
Of course, you've got to.
You're mellow. Like people look at me now, they say, "Is that your same Trevor? Really?" They don't know. They don't really know Trevor. They definitely don't know.
We know some of the Trevor from the stories.
Well, you know a little bit.
The stories that you can't say on this podcast.
Yeah, you can't tell. You know, and as I said, but no. But before you jump in, Ian, let's not get sidetracked. Training methods. The floor's yours.
Okay, so I just want to go back to something that...
No. I just want you to explain your methods. As I said, I'm not pitching old and new. You just
Okay.
explain to him as how you train, because we're not doing it. It's not a debate today. Let's just keep it. You just tell him. He's told you his methods. That you just tell the audience yours.
Okay, so I won't go above 8 reps. We keep it from 4 to 6, 8 being the high end, and we rest a little bit longer and we do less volume.
But how long do you rest for?
3 minutes for anything that's not like a big compound movement, like a squat. For squat, a heavy set of squats, you rest 5 minutes.
And you time yourself.
Yeah. So you sit there with your phone and you press go.
How long have you been doing that for?
2 years. And when I started doing that is when I started making progress. Before I was doing high volume, the same kind of stuff that you were doing. Loads of sets. But I don't think you can just
Recover.
do a crazy amount and then just out-eat and then eat yourself into recovery. Like, there's got to be a point where you can't recover, and adding more food, more protein, more carbs isn't going to help you recover from that.
So let me just ask you. Let's bring it back a little bit, so obviously people can understand.
Yeah.
So you come in the gym.
Yep.
We're going to train chest.
We're going to train chest. Okay.
Okay. So you do a warm up. Is that correct?
You do a couple warm-up sets,
You do a warm up set.
working up to your
Maximum.
maximum. Yeah.
Okay. So then you put the weight. You get the dumbbells, big dumbbells. Is that right?
You'll get the big dumbbells. You'll
So you train as heavy as possible. Is that correct?
as heavy as possible to the point where you can get at least 4 reps in
So-
the set. So if you get 4 reps and you fail on the 5th, that's a good set
That's a good
in
set.
my eyes. Yeah.
You have to do a drop and then try pushing for 8.
No.
No.
No. He just wants to do 4 reps and stop. Okay. And then that's a good. Then you wait 5 minutes.
It depends on the exercise. It's not
So chest is a pretty big
chest
issue.
3 minutes for chest.
Okay. So you have 3 minutes rest on chest, and then you do another one. Is that right? Or how many sets you do?
It depends. It depends because I train upper body all on one session. So I'll do 3 sets of chest in my upper body sessions. 2 sets of an incline press, 1 set of a fly. That's it. No decline. I think anything more than that, I
So
can't
you do
recover.
9 sets on chest, of around 4, 5, 6 reps.
Only 3 in a session.
Okay.
Only 3 in a session.
Only 3.
And then over the week, it comes out to about 10. Anything more than 10, I can't recover from. I'll just start getting weaker.
Okay. And that's your methods behind it, and then
That
you have your rest.
this is the proof. This is what I do, but I do it because it's proven, and I've tried it and it works.
Proven. When you say proven, the IFBB Pro.
There's data there's data that suggests that it works. It doesn't suggest, it shows that it works.
So-
And it shows that the stuff from
so
before
the-
doesn't work.
Okay, so let's just go back. So there's data that it works.
Yeah.
Okay. Where did this data come from?
They'll do studies on people. They'll get a big group of people and they'll do studies.
Okay.
And there's something called a meta-analysis where they'll get a bunch of studies combined and they'll look at the outcome, and it always points in the same direction.
Okay.
If the study is conducted well and not like, it's a badly done study.
Okay. So let's go back to the studies. How long was the studies? Over a period of
And
years?
they'll be over a different studies at different times.
So let's go back to the bit what's telling you to lift 4 reps and have 3 minutes rest.
Yeah.
Okay. So those particular studies,
Yeah.
right? How long and how many people did they do a study on?
They'll get studies with 100 people. They'll do ones
100
with
people.
they'll do ones with trained people, ones with
Okay.
untrained people,
Before-
men, women, everything.
Okay. So they've got 100 people,
Yep.
made them train do 4 reps.
But it's not just one study. It'll be loads of studies with loads of people. So it's more than 100 people in the whole world being tested. Because I know you're going to say not everyone's going to be the same, and 100 isn't the big enough sample size to come to a conclusion. But there's been more than one study done. We don't just do one study, see, it says that, and then go and follow it.
Has there been thousands of studies?
Yeah.
Then?
Yeah.
Thousands.
Yeah.
Right. Over how many years?
I'm not sure exactly when, but it's been around for a while. Early 2000s.
So okay. All right. So that's all your theory behind bodybuilding.
How long have you been trained, did you say? 4 years.
5.
What weight were you started?
62 kilos.
And what are you now?
95.
We're 62 kilo lean.
No, it's a fat kid.
Right.
Yeah.
How much, in 4 years, how much muscle do you think you've put on? Bear in mind, look, don't take this the wrong way, but what are you now, did you say?
95 kilos.
So you come down to about 85,
Yeah.
you're completely shredded.
Yeah.
So in 4 years, you put 20 pounds on. I'll throw this out to you, right? If you could,
Do you mean 20 kilos?
if you can afford to come to Cumbria and train with me for 6 months, and if you don't put £15 on in 6 months, I'll give you the fucking keys to my gym.
Are you serious?
Under
Really?
Under my method. How about that?
And that's just going to be.
I'm not. You know why I'm not thinking? Because I'm not saying that theory of yours doesn't work, because you haven't been in the game long enough to try other methods properly,
Right.
backing it up with nutrition and sleep and everything else. Because you've obviously got a muscle tissue, because you've got a lovely shape. But I think you're just holding yourself back that slightly bit, and I may be wrong. But it took me 10 years to realise what worked for me. So to sit and say this works, it takes, let's say, you do something for 12 months, then let's try this for 12 months, and then you write things down. I didn't have to write things down because I kept it all in my head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that theory doesn't work, but I'll guarantee you now, if you can come to Cumbria for 6 months, I'll put £15 on you.
And what would you do differently to what I'm
just
doing right now?
I'll just train you like a fucking barbarian and fire food into you.
Okay, so you'd fire food into me. Would I get fat?
No.
I wouldn't gain fat.
Because I'd have you doing cardio as well.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, and really what Ian's saying to me, that's what I was going to lead on
I'm
to.
not saying what you're doing isn't working for you.
Yeah.
But trying another method could accelerate it even faster.
Thing is, we kind of did try that method.
But
No,
I can't vouch for that because I didn't see it and I don't know what was going in your mouth. I don't know what
Just to
you-
believe what I'm saying,
Do you know
man.
what I mean?
We did that. We did
Because
that
people,
method, you know.
People tell me the fucking training hard, and
Yeah.
honest to God, they come and train with me, and the fucking my warm-ups burn them out.
And so does
Do you know
mine.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So people say to me, I eat loads of food. Yeah, what do you have for your breakfast? I eat 2 eggs, a slice of toast, and then
Yeah, but
next
these
meal I have
are
a banana.
jokers, man.
But do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
The difference between what people think is this and what actually is this is a very big spectrum.
Right.
You know what I mean? I've got proof in the pudding myself. I've got a little kid, but I've turned into what's going to be just wait for it coming. I've got a kid what's 22-year-old, and he's going to make a big splash.
I saw him.
Because he's lived what he grew up with. You know what I mean? And he trains the method I've just explained to you. Even women, I've had women.
I've seen the winner. I've seen.
You know what I mean?
He works with a lot of women, and that's why I was going to lead on to it.
You could be holding yourself back. That's all I'm saying to you. You could be holding yourself back for a belief that we've all got beliefs, but over time we lose them beliefs and think of another. We change the belief, and always leave yourself wide open to different beliefs. Don't think it's set in stone because there's a database. You know what I mean?
See, that's how we think. It's set in stone because of the database.
But don't let that set in stone. Think it because there's always options for everything. There's always options.
And just you took the words out of my mouth where I was going to go. And then just, how many bodybuilders did they do studies on? Was it just general public?
Not sure. I don't know.
Interesting.
They did trained people who've been lifting for 3-4 years. And then Gen Pop as well.
We're not trained people. Bodybuilders are something totally different. We're 1% of the population.
Yeah, but we're all humans. We all operate under the laws.
I totally understand, but we're not. What bodybuilders do is not what the average guy what goes to the gym and lifts a little bit of weight. They're not bodybuilders, are they?
No,
do you think
not.
These guys in the gym here, and most 95% of the population walking around exercising are bodybuilders?
No, they're not.
What you're involved in is an elite sport. It's a niche sport.
Yeah.
So I would understand it a little bit more if they did bodybuilders, if they took some trained bodybuilders and so if they said that they've gained X amount of tissue.
But with trained bodybuilders, it's harder because you're on a bunch of people are on drugs, doing other stuff as well. Like
not
you
necessarily,
can't.
not all. Not all.
A lot of them are though. Like, if you want to get on the Olympia stage, you need drugs.
Well, Ronnie Coleman was natural, but for on the Olympia stage. But drugs to one side, because this is another thing which we'll touch on in a bit. But what I was going to say to you before we move on, I remember me starting training the first few years like yourself. I was in the gym training, playing about, lifting weights. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Went home, my mum cooked me some food. I was blowing up like a monster. I didn't know what I was doing, but veins were popping out. When bodybuilding, when training's new to your body, you do respond.
It adapts.
This is the best time. You get the most gains when you first start. Yeah. But you know what's going to happen to you? Eventually, because you're pretty new to your body and you've just probably reached the mark where it starts to stop. After around 5 years, the gains start to slow down. And then you say, what's next? Because I got there. I was one of these guys, hyper responder. I just got there from virtually nothing. I could enter natural shows and do this without anything. But for you to get to the next level, then I had to start changing things. Foods, training. Am I right here? No, you tell me if I'm right.
No, absolutely.
Do you agree with that? That it's gonna. I know it's obviously you've just started, but this is from experience. Is that you say you don't have genetics, but I'll tell you now, you've obviously got genetics. You have got genetics.
Yeah.
Right? To build your physique.
Yeah.
So it's not really this science-based thing. It's probably working for you now, maybe, but eventually it's going to stop.
Well,
your body gets used to
no
anything.
matter what, whoever's training, however they're training, it's going to stop for everyone.
And then
because you can't gain forever. At the start, it's going to be fast for everyone, no matter what way they're training. It's going to be fast because there's body sensitive to it, and then it's going to slow down.
Of course, I've just said that, as I said, but eventually,
if there's stimulating tissue damage at the start,
what do you mean?
You've got to actually stimulate muscle tissue first. So not everybody, you can't have a haystack and throw a gallon of petrol on it. A gallon of water on it, and put petrol on it. And that's what training is to failure. That's the petrol of the ignite, and then the food comes in, repairs it, makes the tissue bigger. And that's how a bodybuilder appears.
And the last thing I will say on this is that I remember, for me, when I walked in the gym, I was luckily, I don't know if you remember, Robert Wall and Paul Riley and all these guys. I walked in a gym called Wood Seats in Sheffield. It was like Metroflex gym. It was like unbelievable. All Mr. Britain's Universe, all these top guys in there. I couldn't believe it. I was just in awe. I thought, what is this? And they encouraged me after a few months to compete because I was not bad. So obviously before I met Ian, I was doing some natural shows. and I was winning these shows pretty easy. And I was just in awe of these guys. And whatever they did, I did, because it's like whatever it took for them to get to that level. Obviously, they know something, but I don't know. I used to watch them train and watch them eat. It's trial and tested. Yeah. Not for a bit of database. I'm talking about over years and years and years and years. If you're going to look back to the IFBB pros, the Olympians, and whoever, top amateurs, this database wasn't around when they was doing it. They wasn't around when me and you was doing it. And look at the physiques. Look, did Ronnie Coleman use it? Did Dorian and did Tom Platts and all these other guys?
But you can't use them as examples.
All right, okay,
though,
well I can use.
Genetics.
Okay, this guy's told you didn't have the best genetics. You can use him because he built an awesome physique, monster legs, calves, good, ripped to the bone, good shoulders.
So if he got like that, how could he have had bad genetics? What did he have bad genetics for? Because putting on tissue.
Yeah, but
that's got to be good genetics. Like
no, he didn't have. No, he told me. Did you have great genetics? You started off telling me that you didn't have the best of genetics.
I think I had the conversation with you before. It's if you're in this game, right, you've got two bodybuilders, one with genetics, one with no genetics. The one with the genetics hasn't got a heart. He doesn't like training. He's out every weekend on the drink because he's got big arms. The little kid who hasn't got the genetics, but he's got a heart of a lion, he can put up with a bit of pain. And they'll train for years. They'll train for years. And eventually the little guy will pass the guy with the genetics. And if he wakes up and thinks, I've got to try and catch this little guy with the genetics now, that guy's genetics and muscle tissues carved into the tissue that much, he's not beating him ever again.
What if that guy's genetics are so bad that it's not possible for him to surpass that guy with good genetics? Because that's what it is for a lot of people.
Then what'll happen is he won't become a professional bodybuilder, but he'll become a very good amateur bodybuilder.
Yeah.
So the opportunity is there for everyone.
It's there, and I want
my Mr. Britain, my Olympia was the British Championships and the Mr. Britain. Some people's have got worlds, which is theirs. I'm realistic. If I was born with genetics, I could have been another Dorian, but if my auntie had a cock, she'd be my fucking uncle, wouldn't she? Hindsight's a great thing. Nobody knows what is sitting inside them until we actually explore it and take it to that, push the boundaries with everything. Back it up with nutrition and rest. If you want to use chemicals, you use the chemicals. Eventually the body will start adapting and growing. And the big thing about it is we all have strong body parts, but too many people exaggerate the strong body parts even more. If they changed the law in nightclubs and you had to wear shorts and long sleeve shirts, they'd be fucking queuing for the squat rack. Wouldn't they?
And you know what? I mean? And I'm going to tell you a funny story. I think I mentioned it in the gym recently that I said I never had monster calves, but how I improved my legs and calves is that Mark told me that I had to wear shorts all the time, winter. No matter where, he said, "You're right." I said, "I'm not wearing no." He said, "No, you're good." So if you want to train in my gym, you're putting some shorts on. And when I did that, I improved my calves and legs because I didn't want to look in every day and see them skinny little things I had.
Arnold did exactly the same.
Is that what Arnold did?
Arnold cut his pants off by the.
I didn't know. I didn't realise.
His calves.
I didn't realise.
So he trained them harder because people actually think they train calves hard.
They don't.
They use it to the end of a workout, and they'll do 3 sets, 20 hours non-stop. You're on your calves all day long. They can take a hammer on.
So no, definitely, and it's interesting to hear how some of these, some of the younger guys now who are coming into this game, how they're training. As I said, we're not here to bash him today because he's by himself. You've got a lot of experience, and so have I.
I think they're just misled.
They are misled. In my opinion.
And
I think
they're coming into a sport which is new to them, and they think what they're reading is set in stone, and it isn't.
No, it isn't, and I believe that. I believe that eventually, and hopefully he will pursue this as a career. He really wants it. I talk to a lot of guys, and I think he actually reminds me a little bit of me when I was younger. Like that madness about him. He was in the gym training, like, he turned up at 11 o'clock at night. I thought, I remember when I used to do all them mad things.
Well, that's what you've got to do.
No, but I remember. I've seen him doing it. So for him to have that, and don't get me wrong,
he obviously wants it, doesn't he?
They want it because there's a lot of guys here, and I listen and I talk to so many a little wishy-washy. But if you really want it, you're gonna walk to the gym.
Yeah.
You're gonna do it. You're not gonna mess about. You're gonna really go for it.
The gym, on the gym floor and the training bits, what it's all about. The physique is a side effect of what you do.
Yeah, of course, 100%. Yeah.
If I was walking down the beach, right, and I pick this bottle up and I rub it, and out pops a genie. And he says, I can make you look like Lee Priest because Lee Priest is my height, my weight, everything.
Yeah.
But you won't have to lift another weight in your life. Well, I'd put him back in the bottle and I'd fucking throw the country down.
Yeah, of course.
Because
training's fun, like.
Where, unfortunately, 75% of the population nowadays, they want the physique, but they don't want to put the time and effort in.
Yeah.
And every now and again, somebody like you come along, you've got nice genetics because you've got nice big bone structure, you've got a small waist, which is half the battle. You've created the X illusion before you start. You've got passion, you've got desire, and you need a little bit of money because it's one of the most expensive sports on the planet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But what you waste on supplements, half of them's putting up the noses at weekends anyhow. Do you know what I mean?
All we need is a bit of,
And it's just
bit of
time.
test.
It's just time.
Forget the creatines.
Time. It's just time. Time.
Time.
Time.
That's all it is. Time.
Too many of them rushing it.
You're not going to get it overnight. Just time, day in, day out.
Rushing it.
You know, and you'll get there. And good luck. Hopefully, you get there. So we're going to move on a little bit. I mean, there's so many. I'm just obviously watching the time now, but there's so many places we can talk about. I mean, where we can go. You can go on a bit more coaching. I mean, obviously, there's the anabolic side of things where there's a massive confusion. You know, obviously, I was definitely, before we close off, I want to talk about a bit of judging. You've got a few stories to tell. So, I mean, which way do we want to take it? We have got a little panel over there. So I know you guys can't see it on the camera, but there's a few handful of guys, if they want to ask a question or where they really want to take it. I mean, what do you fancy? Do you want to go anabolics?
I'm far up to anything, mate.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anabolics. Right. This is a serious situation really now because, I look on the every other day Facebook, internet, TikTok. Well, speaking of TikTok, somebody told me there's some guy on TikTok or a couple of guys trend twins. I mean, this is how silly it's getting. Trend twins.
I'm not really too sure.
Have you heard of these? I didn't know.
If it wasn't for the gym, I wouldn't be on social media.
Exactly. I always say that. I wouldn't be on social media.
I don't care what anybody's eating, where they're at.
I don't give a damn.
Where they're sitting on a
Same
beach.
as me. So, I mean, this is how silly it's getting. And then what these young kids are getting, they're hurting themselves because, there's a lot of people on dialysis. There's a lot of people dying. They're taking dangerous diuretics. They're taking insulin. I mean, the question I'll put to both, I'm not sure about if Daniel will really be able to answer this, but why does it seem like bodybuilders are dying now a lot more often than
I think it's
back in the day?
One, they're thinking more is better, which it isn't.
So you want to expand on that? More is better.
I think the biggest thing nowadays is most of the stuff on the market isn't even what it says on the bottle. So God knows what it is they're putting into themselves. We're back 15, 20 years ago, what was actually in this bottle was actually in the bottle. Now it's a multi-million-pound business. And people, I don't think a lot of them's got filters now. They're not interested in harming themselves. Like I've heard stories of people taking 2,000 milligrams of Trenid a week and 3,000 milligrams of testosterone and they look like bags of shit.
And there you go. And they don't look any good.
It's the same theory as the dry haystack throwing water on me. An anabolic is the little bit at the end of the icing on the cake. Put everything together: the food, the training, the nutrition. Put an anabolic in, helps you recover from it, and that's all it does.
It's to assimilate protein.
Yeah.
And the icing on the cake.
I think calling it an icing on the cake is a bit of an understatement, though. Like.
I mean,
The amount it helps you grow is a bit more than icing on the cake.
I could actually pull John Smith off the street and fill this room up with growth hormone, testosterone, real, and give him it and say, I'll see you in 3 years' time. and he'd rather be dead or he look like a bag of shit. So
Answer that.
because let's be honest.
I mean, you have to train. You have to eat
Exactly.
properly. You have to train.
Yeah.
But in combination with gear,
Yeah.
gear is more than icing on the cake, is what I'm saying. You can sit at home and take 600 milligrams of testosterone and grow. It's proven.
Yeah, if the environment.
They did a study. They
if
did
the
a stu-
environment's right, of course it
They've
will.
done a study where they took people who were training naturally for 12 weeks or 6 weeks, I can't remember what it was. And then they took a group of people who were on 600 milligrams testosterone, no training, just sitting on their ass all day. That group that didn't even train and took 600 milligrams of testosterone grew 3 times as much as the natural group that were training.
I find that hard to believe.
And what you?
It's the truth. It's the truth. It's the truth.
No. The reason
the
why
truth.
I'm going to tell you that.
In that tester, were they taking...
No. We can't
Muscle tissue grows under stress.
talk.
It doesn't grow sitting watching Coronation Street.
Listen to me, right?
If
Listen
that's
to
the
me.
case, every teenager, once he's knackered, start using testosterone and producing testosterone, will become Ronnie Coleman.
Let me just say. So, I've got to say we've got to have some parliamentary procedure. We can't shout out. No.
Block that
Obviously for the for the guys who are standing there, because obviously for the audience and filming, it's gonna look terrible.
Yeah.
Obviously, Adam will cut this bit out,
Yeah.
so we can't do that. So what it is that if they took X amount of tests and sat at home, this is the reason why I know these studies are nonsense. They're not going to gain any muscle because you got to break down muscle tissue to get, and then the muscle tissue repairs to build to
you don't
grow.
know, that's not how it works anymore.
No.
This is disproven. This is old stuff.
That is how
One
it works. You don't have to build muscle tissue to grow.
You don't have to break it down. Breaking it down and building it back isn't how it.
Well, how does it work?
How does it work?
It doesn't work like that. The muscle that you think muscle damage causes muscle growth. You damage the muscle and then it repairs bigger, is what you guys think. This is disproven. It's been disproven for a really long time.
So it's been disproven for the last since the time of when did bodybuilding start? In the 60s? Is that right? 70s? So back in those days, so right till then, all the way up to 2020, whenever these studies came out.
Earlier than 2020.
Right?
Early 2000s.
All the pro
Before.
bodybuilders and everybody who has changed their physiques and have improved and look. Have you ever been to a pro show?
No.
And seen these guys on stage?
No.
Right? These guys don't look normal. You may think they look, when you physically go there and see them, then you will understand. Looking at me now, you can't say, oh, if you saw me when I was a pro, you know, he worked with me. It was not like, you thought it'd blow your mind.
Yeah.
So what I'm telling you, right, is that forget about your couple of years of data or whatever amount, you're talking 60, 70 years of, trial and error of all the top guys and all the amateurs and all that, all gone out the window because of this data, right? For a few years.
Yeah, but so those guys, that 60 years of experience that you're talking about,
They all got it
that
wrong.
doesn't prove that breaking down your
So
muscle.
of course it proves,
It
because
doesn't prove it.
No, it's
It
trial
doesn't
and
prove
error.
it. It proves that lifting weights and training to failure, because that's how they trained.
No, but
That's what builds the muscle. It's not the breaking down.
At the biggest, my arms were just under 24 inches,
Yep.
right? So I got it wrong. I had a 16-inch chest.
You're wrong about this, yeah.
No,
You're wrong about this.
I'm
Anyone
just telling
watching
you,
this
right,
podcast
I
can
got
do
it-
the research and
No, I'm
find
just
out.
telling you that. This is the problem, because this is what I'm saying. How misled and how misguided these young people are, because they're saying that Ronnie Coleman's thighs, Tom Platz, and all these guys got it wrong, and they're trial and error. These guys were the gods, and how can they have got it wrong?
You don't even have to
Because
take
we're-
you don't even have to take it to that level.
Take it to this average guy.
Take it till Joe Walker, who's won the Mr. Cumbria, has more times than anybody. Great bodybuilder. He's not a Mr. Olympia, but
So he got it wrong as well.
he trained that way.
And now
Jamie
there's a new
Manuel,
way of doing
Jamie
it.
Manuel, Paul Longfield, God rest his soul, John Bridge. I can start naming.
I know them all. I know
Half
them
them out there
names.
won't even know what I'm talking about.
But they got it all wrong because of this new study.
Yeah.
It's not saying that they got it wrong.
But you're saying
Exactly.
muscle tissue doesn't need breaking down to grow.
It doesn't need breaking down to grow.
So that means we got it
Muscle
wrong. So
damage is a side effect of the training,
Absolutely.
but you're not trying to damage the muscle, because damaging your muscle takes away from the stimulus of hypertrophy.
So how do you actually grow the muscle in that theory? Sorry.
You get stronger, and your muscle grows to adapt to the increasing strength, the increasing weight that you're doing in the gym. muscle damage goes against your recovery or hypertrophy. I've got an analogy that I like this analogy. If you get a car and you take it into the gym and you total it, you completely destroy it.
I understand
fill
that,
it with
like I said before, I probably train too hard.
Yeah.
You've got to know when to take it to that point, that sweet point, and then back off.
Yeah, so you've damaged that car completely, right?
Yeah.
And you've got a certain amount of money to repair that car. So you go and repair that car, and now it's fully repaired. Versus the guy who comes in here with the same car, but barely damages it. He barely damages it, but he gets the same stimulus, puts the money in, and he gets a whole new car.
That's a silly analysis.
It's not a silly analysis. It's not a silly analogy.
A Ferrari doesn't turn into a Jeep, and a Jeep doesn't turn into a bus.
No.
A small bicep turns into a bigger bicep, into a bigger bicep, into a bigger bicep.
Exactly. So you're adding Ferraris. You're taking a Ferrari, instead of replacing the old Ferrari, you're adding a new one. That's what we're saying.
I mean, it's interesting, and as I said, if
I'd like to do us a favour, send us the links to this.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure,
I'm
yeah.
open to all. I'm not saying it doesn't fucking work. I'm just saying, I've got a son being training the same age as you, but obviously
you couldn't stand with
he's
him.
3 times bigger than you, and he's used my theories. I'm not saying that you've used your theories, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've got a 17-year-old son who's been training since Christmas, and he's nearly the same size as you with that method.
Yeah.
I don't train him like I used to. Drop sets negative. He'll do 15 to 16. He'll fail on 12. He'll get another one on his own. I'll give him 2, and that's set done. I understand you don't need to bang muscle tissue, because you'd never recover from it.
That's what we're saying.
Do you know what I mean? But you've still got to break the tissue down to a certain point for adaptation of food. Protein comes in, repairs the tissue. To say it doesn't, you don't need that.
And
Maybe it's the words we're mixing up. I don't know.
I don't think it is. I think it's the old. That's what everyone used to think, but now it's proven that it just doesn't work. That's not what's causing. It's not saying that if you train like that, you're not going to grow, but the damage isn't what's causing the muscle growth. It's something else, not the damage.
Well, maybe we could just leave that up to the viewers to throw some questions in.
Yeah, definitely. For the viewers, let them have a think of not breaking tissue down anymore and just, doing 4 reps. And just one question I'd like to ask you before we move on from that is, who else is doing that? Because obviously we got trial and error. We've got data, if you want to call it that, trial and error. With, as I said, you don't have to go to them extremes with all the pros. You got the guy there. You got a man there what obviously overtrained a little bit, but he's built a really good physique, and many others. But how many more people do you know who's using this method at the moment? Has anyone won any titles from this?
Do you mean like bodybuilding? Because I don't really
bodybuilding.
follow.
Yeah, bodybuilding.
I don't follow new school. I don't follow bodybuilding.
Yeah, but we're talking bodybuilding now. We're not talking the average guy who's just getting off the
No,
settee.
it doesn't matter. It works for everyone.
Well, as I said, I think we're in a very extreme sport, so I don't know how we can keep. If you're going to put me as a pro bodybuilder in the gym, what I did on a Monday morning on legs, and put the average guy walking down the street, getting off his settee or whatever it is, and put us both in the gym and expects us to do both. So it does matter.
Well, you've
really
got more experience than him.
Well,
you've got more.
Well, I'm just saying that's what I'm saying. So it's a massive difference in levels. There's levels.
So
there's a level to this. No, but what I'm saying, if you let me finish,
Yeah.
there's levels to it. So I'm not. So we're talking at the very extreme level bodybuilding is.
Okay.
It's not just the guy in the gym. So if you're just talking about some guys who just walk in the gym and just do a little bit of messing about and run around and not do nothing, then yeah. But if you're going to talk about a competitor, it's a little bit more extreme. But all I'm asking, the question I'm asking you is, is anybody who is there anybody turned pro on this level? Is anybody won the Mr. Britain or Mr. Cumbria by using this method? Is anyone?
So I'll have to go back and do some research because I don't know. I don't really follow bodybuilding.
I've got a kid trains with me now. He's 16-year-old, and he was 16, coming up 17, and in the last 12 months he's put on 20 pounds.
There you go.
And still lean.
Right.
Which maybe, as soon as you do anything, like you said, if you start fresh, your body adapts anyhow.
Yeah.
So maybe that method is where it does work.
Well, it's gonna. As you said, it's gonna start.
If you
anything's gonna work at the beginning.
And you do that 300 times, your biceps are going to think, Christ, I haven't done this before, so you'll do something and try and grow.
Yeah, but the
So I understand.
method of just taking testosterone and just growing muscle, I just beg to differ, and on my experience in bodybuilding and my common sense tells me that's nonsense, because you've obviously got to do some kind of resistance training, to whether he wants to call it damage or break tissue down, to make that muscle grow. I just don't get that at all. I think that is totally wrong. Obviously that's his theory. Good luck to him, but I don't believe it at all. And there's no proof that any bodybuilders are using this method. As you said, there's nobody winning any show. There's nobody winning Mr. Britain by doing this method.
How do you know?
Because I ask you, I don't study this. So I mean, if
Okay,
you're
so you don't know either how they're training.
I know.
They could be
I
training.
know the training.
I know 90% of them.
I know 99.9% of people are training. Not like the guys who I know are winning shows. I've been in the gym before we competed. Like, for an example, when I went to, I've been to America or Canada or wherever. I was in the gym in the morning, and don't forget we're depleting. It's a competition week. I've seen Marcus. Look at size. Have you ever seen Marcus Rule?
Not in person.
Well, I have. I competed with some of these monsters. All these guys in the gym, in Gold's Gym and some other gyms, I've seen what they were doing, and none of them was doing that. All right, we're taking it to an extreme level, but these guys are the best guys in the world. So, but even if I go to some amateur gyms, amateur shows, or if I know loads of bodybuilders all over the country, like Ian, and I don't know anybody doing that. Competitors.
Give it a few years and you'll see more people doing it.
Well, I'm just saying from right now. So I would. And
There are people doing it right now. 100%.
Yeah, but
1,000% there are people doing it now.
Okay. So why is Chris Bumstead and some of these other new pros not doing it? Derek Lunsford. I've watched his videos. He's doing the world
Because
school training.
you can't take the top guys. Like we've said this before. You can't take the top guys and look at what they're
middle
doing.
and bottom aren't doing it. There'll be some people
How do you know
doing
they're
it.
not doing it? There are people doing it.
Not who I know.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people, but you saying you know people doing it, but obviously not champion bodybuilders or guys who are winning shows. Because
They don't have to be champion bodybuilders. They just need to look good when they strip off.
yeah, but I just don't know about who's doing this method. What he's saying.
Well, if there's anybody out there, get in touch.
Let us know, because maybe you're gonna change. It's gonna be a revolution
Maybe
in
save a lot of people's
bodybuilding.
joints.
Maybe I'm gonna start doing
I'm
4
very
reps
good.
and waiting 5 minutes. I tell you something, it'd be a nice way of training, because the way I used to train and the way these guys used to push me, I was throwing up in the toilets, passing out, bloodshot eyes,
We've got a
sweating,
signal, haven't you?
unbelievable. If I could do it, I tell you something, I do like the way because it sounds easy.
It sounds great. Harder
It's awesome.
doesn't always mean better. It doesn't have to be as difficult. Making it difficult unnecessarily doesn't make it better.
Oh well.
Train smarter, not harder.
Definitely train
Absolutely.
smart, and as you get older, I definitely had to train smart because my joints couldn't angle squatting and throwing around heavy dumbbells. So, but no, it's very interesting what these guys are thinking, as you said, and it's not what the coach. I mean, this is the man that coaches hundreds of people out the years. Every year. Is anybody doing this method for you? What comes to you?
I've got a couple of people who train in my gym like that, and to be honest with you, they look shit.
Okay.
And that's not being disrespectful. That's just that.
Yeah.
If you want to go and join another gym, go and fucking join you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Who doesn't care? And
I don't care.
it's the truth. It's the truth. So anyway,
I would actually like to look into the database.
Okay,
Definitely.
for sure.
send it me as well. I'll have a look at it.
We'll sit in the office. We'll have a whole breakdown of it, and I will convince you.
No,
I will convince you
No,
because
do you know what it is?
because does 1 + 1 equal
No,
2?
listen. Send it me so I can go home, and instead of watching a comedy, I'll put it on the TV in the big screen. I'm in my bed, have a cup of coffee, and have a good laugh.
We'll see.
'Cause
Bud.
that's how silly it is. You can get to the gym without building muscle. I tell you something. You can make the next Dorian Yates. You don't have to go to the gym anymore. I mean, that's absolutely crazy.
If you put any of those guys behind the camera on a gram of test, they're gonna grow.
They can tell
They're gonna grow.
Okay,
You
excellent.
give them protein, they're gonna grow.
Or without
Give them a
lifting
gram of gear, they're gonna grow.
Without any
weights.
weights.
Without lifting weights.
Yes.
Anyway, I don't think this is good for your online coaching. Anyway, I mean, you know, I'll definitely have a think about that one. But maybe we have to cut it out. Who knows? If you want it out, we'll cut it because it's not. It is crazy. But anyway, we're gonna kind of wrap it up a little bit because we could be here all night, you know. And it's once again massive pleasure to have Mr. Chambers in the house, you know, and obviously the young man here, up and coming, new school. So always respect, always, you know, and we're having a bit of a laugh now, but you know, as I said, we will be supporting these guys, and I want you to do his show. I think you got a right chance up there. I'll drive. Yeah, I'm going up there anyway. So let's do his show. So, Ian, the last thing we're going to touch on now. We're going to talk about judging. You're a professional judge, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a judge. And I'm going to just tell a story about when I'm a judge as well. Just so if the guys don't know, I judge. Half of the time I don't turn up. You know, people ask me to judge here and do this and do that, and I don't. I can't be bothered to do it. So I do struggle because I just get a bit bored these days, just sitting there watching people. Passion seems to have gone a little bit, but anyway, I went to judge Ian's show a couple of years ago. I think he was with PCA.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I drove up to Cumbrain, booked in a hotel. Walked in, and then I found out I'm not judging. Why was that, Ian? Why would it allow independent judges who you selected to judge your show? Because that's when you was with PCA. You remember?
Yeah. At the general meeting, what I think 4 people turned up till, which took me 6 hours to drive till, even though 90% of them lived an hour's drive away. They couldn't make it. The agreement was the area shows pick their own judges to save the PCA paying petrol money. And I don't do bodybuilding judging for money. I do it because it's my way of giving someone back into the bodybuilding. But the judges were having to fork money out of their own pockets to put petrol in the cars. As me, I've got to take probably 2 days away from the gym, which is not training 12 clients for 2 days. I've got to pay staff to cover my gym because I'm away. I've got 2 days away from seeing my small kids at the time. And then you're sitting on the judging table for 12 hours. And basically, the PCA weren't given any kind of expenditure to the judges. They're expecting them to do it all for free. And believe me, they're making money here. They're making more money now. Do you know what I mean? So basically what they said was, bring your own judges in. So I brought Trevor up, I brought Sharon Madison, Graham Madison, Joe Walker, Kate Kendall, Patty Ryan, Trevor, and then obviously it all went tits up, and they wouldn't let the independent judges judge the shows.
Why not?
Because back then, I don't know about now, but the show was being judged by 2 people. The 2 people who won the federation. These other lot sitting beside them didn't count.
Right.
So you understand what you're saying?
So only the people in the middle's decision counted.
No. So if you've got a panel of judges, I'll split it out.
Yeah.
Because he's got to obviously be careful because he's still there and he's really high up in the judging.
Yeah.
If you've got a panel of 8 judges, 9 judges, what have you, and there's only 2 people making a decision, I've got eyes.
What's the point in the other judges then?
What's involved? Yeah, but why are they not allowed to say which one's winning?
I think they should.
No, but why not?
I don't know.
The reason why I'll spit it out is because it's as corrupt as hell. So, and I've also been on judging panels when they've told me that number 1's won. I said, no, number 2's won. In fact, me and Ernie Taylor actually was on the same panel one time. I was judging. And they said, this little girl, probably your age, 18, 19, 20, whatever, she came up for the federation and said, oh, you put number 1. I said, yeah, that's the best one. He said, change that to 2. I said, what? Why? I said, you haven't won. I said, I've got him 5th or something like that. Ernie had him 4th. Anyway, they're telling me what to do, what numbers to put on, and where to place people. Number 1 can't win today. I said, why? He's the best man. No, but we can't have him. We're having that one. So our papers have been destroyed, mine and Ernie's, and then it happened again, and then it happened again. So me and Ernie, we said, forget this, and we just got up and walked off, when I'm going to grab something to eat. I mean, and this is the problem, what's going on in bodybuilding. It's a lot of politics in every federation, and sometimes, I can spit it out because I don't give a damn. I've been long retired. They can penalise you for saying certain things, and obviously Ian's probably seen this. Well, I'll tell you what, I went to give you this one. I can't remember what year it was, but me, Lee Powell, Eddie Abu, I think it was Lee in it, John Odston, we all went over to Spain to do a qualify for the, it's qualify for IFBB Pro show for the qualify for Olympia, top 3 go to Olympia. So I'm competing in that show with all the guys. I don't know, loads of pro bodybuilders from America and everything. Because back in them, there weren't that many pro shows, were they? No. There weren't that many. Like now, they were all over the place, but no, there wasn't that many. And anyway, we went to, it was in Spain. And one of the competitors was on the toilet.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
The judges had a meeting in the toilet, and they said, who's in the show? Such and such. They were calling names. He sat on they didn't know he was there. There was judging, then saying, well, he's first, he's second. We hadn't even gone on stage. It's the day before the show. So anyway, we went on the, I didn't know this at the time. We all got to find out afterwards. And then we all got on stage. I was a bit flat, but I was shredded. I was ripped to the bone. One of the best conditions I've ever been in. And all the English guys, if you remember this, they didn't call us out. We was in Spain. So I'm one of my first pro shows I did, and I'm stood there, ripped, and I'm thinking, not first, not second, not... Eddie Abu's at the side of me, sat down. Eddie Abu, he just sat down. John Odston, it was kicking off, walking off, John. John was a bit of a live wire, innit, sometimes. And he was kicking off, what they're effing this and that. We're kicking off, and all the British athletes didn't get no call-outs. And right at the end, they called me, Eddie Abu, and a few of us out to judge. I mean, in the lineup. I don't even know if Eddie went out, to be honest. I think he had to get up. It was that. And when we got off stage, it was what had just happened. They didn't judge. The Spanish refused to judge the English bodybuilders. Why, I don't know. And the following year, we was told not to go back there to Spain and get to compete in that show again. I don't know if it was in the beef in the magazines, Flex, how they treat the English, how they just overlooked us and told us more or less to get stuffed. And I was fuming because I remember there was a Brazilian judge who approached me, and he said, today I had your third. I don't know one. I think Dennis Wolf won, and I think another guy got second. The guy, he was sat in the audience, and he came and said, "Where you come from? Who are you?" And I said, "Trevor." He said, "I had your third." And it was IFBB. It was a Brazilian judge, and he said, "I had your third in that today." And no, once again, gave me the elbow. So that's the story of my life. Always getting just the kneeling man. But anyway, but yeah. So obviously back to judging. Am I speaking out anything wrong here?
No, it's. I mean, the judging's obviously opinionated. That's why you get an odd number of judges, because you put all the numbers in the pot together and you get to take away the highest or the lowest score, and your average ends up first, second, third, or fourth. But when I personally think, well, I know now when you're in the IFBB Pro Elite, you've got a guy called Pavel, and Pavel actually judges the judges. So if he'll walk up and back and down the lineups, and if number two's an average of second and third, and somebody's got him sixth, you get a tap on the shoulder, and you've got to leave the judging table, and somebody else comes on your place. which is the way it should be. You know what I mean? There's a difference between second, and an eighth.
Yeah.
And a seventh. Because that eighth and seventh can knock somebody from winning the show till third.
Yeah.
Because you take the 8 off, and that 7 just still takes you up to the average of being out of the top 3, you know what I mean?
Oh, it even happens at low-level bodybuilding too,
does.
the politics.
Of course it does.
I had a friend...
A bodybuilding show should be judged from the neck down.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, some of them, I don't know what they're like now, because I stick to my own niche now, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I had a friend called, still have a friend called, his name was Alex Ristich. He's a Russian guy, and he did a bodybuilding show in the UAE, and he should have won. He absolutely should have been first. He had the best shape, and he was the leanest, but they put the 2 Arab guys ahead of him, just because, and they were kind of, one of them was fat, like he had love handles, and he beat this guy because he was Russian.
Okay, well, I mean, that's just obviously sort of a little bit to touch on. You know, there's so much more we could say, but obviously, Ian's still a judge, so obviously we don't really want to, but we're not saying that the UKBFF is doing anything like this. So I must say that, because if I would judge, and I'm meant to judge some of their shows, I would definitely, that would probably be the only one. The other ones, no, I don't think it's for me, because if I see a person on stage and they deserve to win, I'm not going to put up with it and say that, because it's all right. Some of these guys have never been up there, they've never competed, so I think I need to be fair, because it's a lot of time,
hard work
and effort. It's not easy, is it?
No.
To get yourself up there and then corruption to be happening. So I'd rather not get involved with it if it's going to be that. That's the case. So I think really that we're going to wrap up really now. I think that we could go on all night. There's so much more we could talk about. I've told them so many stories about you guys, you and the other guys I know and over the years, but so only thing I'm saying is that Ian, when's your show? Do you want to just plug your show?
Yeah, 28th of June, UKBFF Cumbrain Classic. Cash prizes, big overall trophies. Qualify for international shows with the UKBFF through the IFBB. It's always a sold out show, it's always a big show. It's just starting to get back on its feet now after COVID. I think COVID everybody's just starting to get back on their feet now, the bodybuilding shows since COVID. And anybody out there who's died at the moment, good opportunity for you. You're always looked after, the athletes are always looked after. Yeah, that's one thing I always do.
And I will be coming up to that show, and I think that we may bring some of the guys up who I know, that from this gym and around this area, because obviously we're going to be in contact with a lot of guys who are going to be prepping now. So I'll push your show forward, and hopefully we'll get some of your guys who'll come, because it's not that far apart, because our show, the TT Classic, will be on the 16th of August at the Hope Centre in Sheffield. We've got all the classes. The website will be up soon. The posters and the flyers will be going out as well. I think normally a lot of bodybuilding shows they kind of leave the registration until late, but we're going to open ours bright and early, because I've already had a few people inquiring about it. So we're going to open it up and get them all registered. And hopefully that's going to be really good. I mean, as I said, our show is cash prizes again. We're going to get some really good trophies. It's an independent show. We were going to go, with a few federations, but we decided that we're going to go ourselves and have an independent show. Although it's a TT Yorkshire Classic, everybody's invited to compete. I've had somebody from down south already approach me asking me when's the for the physique class, men's physique, when will the registration be open? So yeah, it's going to be a good show. The hall's going to be, a knockout. When you see the hall and the stage and the setting where we have in this show, it's going to be something extra special. And I think we're looking for a guest poser. I've approached a couple of people. That's one of the things which the big federations don't really do now. They don't have guest posers, but I think we're going to bring one in, and it's always good to, you know, see a pro on stage as well. You know, I did a lot of guest poses. I think I guest posed at your show one year. You know, I went up to Cumbrain and called me up and said, you know, want to guest pose. You know, we had there was 2 that year. I think there was me and Masoon, another IFBB Pro.
Wendy McCready was there as well.
Yeah, they came. I came on last. So we saved a big monster until the very last, and then the place erupted. I remember coming off stage and his ex-wife sadly died as well. God rest her soul. You know, I remember she came off on that. When I came off stage, she said, "Wow." I said, "What?" She goes, "I saw this little shy boy, 97, little kid, and then I've seen you up there." She said, "Oh my God." She said, "That was, I didn't expect that." He said, "All that in 3 years." Just like he said, he actually, you know, said that you'd be a pro in 2 or 3 years or what have you. And, you know, obviously he knew exactly, he knows what he's talking about, because that's exactly to the day. And he took me there. He took me to, not only you know, to the diet and what have you, and he took me there, you know, and we went there and beat a very good bodybuilder at the time. He pushed me though a little bit. Lee Powell, another IFBB pro. It was good. It was a good battle, but you know, I managed to just nip over the line. But as I said, that our sporting weekend, the show on the 16th, the festival, hopefully you can stay for that. We're hopefully going to have a tug of war with the police, a boxing exhibition, food. There's going to be speakers. It's going to be a really big event. Sheffield's going to be a roadblock on that weekend. You know, all in memory of the young boy that died. We're raising money for Knife Arch for the school. You know, All Saints School, where obviously my daughter goes as well. You know, so it's going to be good. It's going to be an awesome, massive event. And I want everyone to come and support that. And if you can sponsor us, we're all looking for sponsorship. We're putting on a big event. You know, we are a small charity, the Olympia Wellbeing Academy. You know, so we just need as much help as we can to stop this terrible thing, what's happening, knife crime. You know, so I'm sure there's a lot of people in here who've got children. So, you know, let's keep everybody safe. So, on that note, you know, I think we'll wrap it up, and that's all I've got to say. Anything else you want to say?
Just thank you for having me on this podcast, and thanks to Ian for giving me some tips on the physique and what I need to do for the show. I appreciate that a lot. And thanks for the little T for convincing me to come on this. Yeah, that's it. And
definitely get behind the young man as well if you want. You know, get behind him, give him some support, check out his Instagram and what have you, and I know that's what they all do. For me personally, you know, I think I'm a bit like you. If I wasn't on the, if I didn't have a gym, I don't think I'd even be on social media. No. I'm not really that much interest, but you know, these guys, though, good luck to them all, are not on the journey. We was in their shoes at one time, and you know, we've gone through the other side now. You know, we just moved on. Life changes. So, excellent. You know, you did well today. Thanks, Ian. Daniel, respect. Mr. T, out. Bless. That's it. Nice one, guys.
Nice one.
And in the toilet as well.
Yeah, 1 step. That was cool, man. Come on, my guy.